Hello, everyone. So far, we have seen how we can use models, abstract models, how we can use your data on the model, and we also saw how to do retrieval augmented generation in LabVIEW. In this video, we're going to look at talk about agents, and we are also going to look at some of the agents that comes with LLM libraries, right? So, first thing, what is an agent, right? Um, it's actually a loosely used word today in a Gen AI world. Um, there is not a lot of standard definition. Um, I mean, according to me, right, an an agent is more like an autonomous system that use uh, LLMs or Gen AI in its core to do reasoning. And if you kind of treat like in software like solid principles, when you define a class, right, it has to do one thing very good. For me, whenever you define an agent should be like an autonomous system, that uses LLM in its core for reasoning and does one thing really well, right? So that's for me is an agent, right? So if you wanted to kind of take an example from our last video where we did a retrieval augmented generation, where um, we we took the data, we stored, vectorized, and stored it, and then based on like users' errors that they face, um, we went in, converted the error into some kind of a vectors, searched in a vector database, and then like summarized it and provided a response, right? So it kind of used bunch of uh, a bunch of components in the backend. It used vector database to search. It used embedding models to create vectors, and it also used text-to-text OpenAI models to do the final summarization, right? Um, this is you can kind of call it as a simple um, Q&A agent. I mean, the question is in this case an error. Whenever we give an error, the answer is more like, okay, um, what is the root cause for error? But on a very high level, it's more like a question and answer, right? Where your question, you ask a question, it kind of comes up with the answer based on your data. So what we have done is we kind of created a simple Q&A agent because this is a much more common need where people have a data, and whenever there is a question, you need to find some answers based on that particular data, right? So we kind of created a question and answer agent simply based on like this dirty code that you are seeing, right? It's just a cleaned up version and a bit more modular version of this particular one. So I'll kind of show you, right? So I go to so with LLM libraries, if you open it under in your function palette, you'll find a palette called agents, where you will find a simple agent, right? Again, the way you use it is very simple. Um, you have an instantiate VA and you have a destroy VA. Instantiate instantiates the agent. Destroy would destroys the instant of the particular agent. Then, like when model similar to how you have run, we have something called ask, right? So you can actually drop and ask, pass in the agent information, and you send in a question. Question is typically a text, same create text message, and it will provide a response as a text message, right? So you can ask particular agent on two things. You can ask the agent to purely respond back. uh, Sorry about sorry about that. Purely answer based on your model information, um, or you can actually have the agent respond based on the data that you have provided, right? So it has two modes: ask your model mode or ask your data mode. So um, agent also takes three elements as an inputs. It's similar to the TVA that we have seen previously in RAG. One is it gets vector database as an input. It gets your model as an input, both text-to-text model as well as an embedding model. Again, the agent is agnostic because it uses uh, all the extracted model classes and vector DB classes. So you can actually send a different embedding model or a different text-to-text. It not be OpenAI, right? It can also be Anthropic and whatnot, and it'll provide the response accordingly using those models, right? So first thing, ask your model. So now I'm going to use the same quadrant and I'll also use the same collection from the last demo. So let me actually go to that, copy. copy the collection name, paste it here, and I kind of say, what is minus 8903 error from pump 3? When I run it now, it kind of takes this information, but then it actually doesn't ask your model. So it is providing information based on what it knows. So again, all the hallucination comes into picture where it says, oh, this error, I don't know, you have to consult the manufacturer's manual, check connections and whatnot. Because if you go into ask your model agent, the way it is developed is it takes the question and it simply applies it on the chat model and it provides the answer. Instead of it, we will switch to ask your data. What ask your data function does is, it's like I said, it's just a cleaned up version of what we have built in the last video in retrieval augmented generation, right? So it takes the question, um, creates an embedding vector, provides the vector to the database. It's a query, gets the top relevant nodes, provides to to your text to text generation model. It's a summarization and provides back the response, right? It's a typical RAG, like a 4 steps, right? Form a query, embed the query, search from the database, and does a summary. So now, when I'm in ask your data mode and I pointed to the collection where I have all the histories of errors placed, and now I run it, um, it's going to look at the database, and the response is going to be a bit different than asking your model because it's going to answer based on the data it has. So I'll let it go through the rack system, um, and come back with the response. It will take few seconds. Yep. So it kind of says the possible reasons are internal motor failure because this is what my data says, right? So what we have seen now is a simple Q&A agent where you can simply point to any collection that you wanted, any collection where you have your data, and you can just feed in that particular database credentials, as well as your model. Your model can be OpenAI or it can even be the local model, and this agent does a Q&A of. So it also does more than that. It also stores your conversation in its memory. So the next question you ask, it can answer based on the previous conversation that it has. Um, if you put it in a while loop with an event structures and whatnot, where you ensure that you persist this particular object, and you feed into the subsequent ask your data sessions, it does answer based on the context, right? I'll kind of show you in a much more state machine um, kind of a demo in upcoming videos, but this is a quick explanation of what is an agent and a Q&A agent that comes by default with the LLM libraries. Again, you can also create an agent. There is no solid design or a definition for an agent. We have used like practice that we have with LLM libraries is the class as an agent, and we ensure like we have right methods developed in that particular class, and all the agents data is kept encapsulated within the particular class. You can feel free to inherit from Q&A agent if some of your agents are similar to this, or feel free to kind of take inspiration from this agent from our GitHub repo and create your own. We did kind of create one inherited agent. It's just a simple Q&A. It's a simple dynamic Q&A. The primary difference is this Q&A is more, I would kind of call it static because it gets the database as an input. In simple QA, what it does is it gets data as an input, and it dynamically uses the data to answer, right, instead of getting the vector database. It's a minor difference, but we just decided to kind of inherit from the simple agent, and probably like override couple of VAs, and we are able to get the functionality done. So yeah, that's pretty much about agents in LabVIEW. Thanks for watching.